Okay. So the lead translator, let me see what this is. So basically, they give you like the what is? Wait, hold on. Let me pull up the problem. I don't even know the problem. Okay, so you're giving two arrays, letters and lead characters, right? So, and what you want to do is you want to write a function that takes in a string, uses the letters, well, uses the lead cars array to change it into like the translation pretty much, because everything. So the first thing you have to remember is that arrays are ordered, right? So everything that's in the index of like, it's always going to come back ordered. So at index 0 of letters is A, it's going to be directly correlated to index 0 of lead characters. So that's like the first thing you have to remember. So the first thing we should do is write a function called, what is it? Lead translator. It's going to be a function. Oops. It's going to take a string. Oh, I'll just do this. And basically, the first thing we're going to do, let me read the question. So the first thing we want to do, since arrays are kind of weird to work with, like looking things up with indexes, objects are very good here. They're very useful here. So they're very good for creating something like a dictionary. Actually, if you guys are familiar with Python, which you're probably not, there's something like a key value thing in Python, but they're called dictionaries because it's the same thing. So basically the key is going to be what you're going to be looking up, right? You're going to be looking up the key, and then its value is going to be the definition in the dictionary. So first we're going to make a dictionary. So you just do, oh wait, let me just copy and paste the these things in here. So you have these things, right? So what you're going to do is first you're going to make a let dictionary, and you're just going to set it to an object, right? Well, I don't have to do this. That's just an empty object. So now to populate this object with whatever A is, A should be this, B should be this, C should be this, and so on and so forth, right? So what we want to do is we want to make letters A, we want to make this value a key, and its value should be this. Does everyone understand why? So when you look up in the object, like, because the thing that's going to be put into a function is a string in human English. So you can look through that string, look at each letter, say, hey, dictionary, what is the value of this letter into this ridiculous language? And it'll just spit it back at you, and then you can put it into a result string. Do you understand the logic behind that? Is anyone confused by that? Cool. So basically, we will loop, make a loop. And we're going to loop through letters, so I'll reference the letters. So now, we'll say dictionary. So we'll say dictionary at letters at I. So you can pull out letters at I and set it equal to some kind of variable to make it easier to read, but since this is just doing this, I'm just going to leave it at dictionary at letters at I. Do you guys understand? What's up?
So you're saying it'd be the same thing as you've done dictionaries equals to letters at I? That would be the same thing?
No. Like I'm saying this is the same thing as saying like let current character equal to letters at I, and then passing current character into here instead of this. But this is just like a waste of a line, you know? It's very clear what I'm doing here, right? So what you're going to do is, so when you do, so you don't even have to check if there's a value already in the dictionary, because even if there's something there, which there isn't because it's empty, you're just going to reassign it with the assignment operator, and it's going to be lead cars at I. So now, if I console log, oops, console log dictionary at the end of this for loop, lead translator. So now we get this like crazy object, right? And if you want, if you want to sit here and go through all the characters, you can, but everything is the same. Everything is what we should be. So now that we have this object, now we can translate the actual string that's being input. So instead of console logging here, we can just do, well, okay, yeah, so first we have to say let results equal an empty string, right? And this is going to be our result string, what we're going to return at the end. So we can say, we'll space this out a little bit. Is this big enough, by the way? You guys can see this fine? You people in the back, you guys see this? You can see this? All right, cool. So what we can do now is say results plus equals, oh no, now we have to loop through the string, my bad. So you have to now, after you're done making that dictionary, you have to say let, you could say I again here because I is block scopes, and I is less than string.length, right? So now we're going to loop through this string that's being inputted into the function, increment I, and for every character of the string we're putting into it, we are going to say result plus equals dictionary at string of I. And at the end, you return result. Always remember to return what you're doing, because if you don't return anything, it's going to be undefined. What's up?
I understand it, but is it okay if you write out the syntax for like in a slow process continue? I understand what you did just now, like you raised the
Yeah.
Do you mind putting it in and so like maybe each letter like longer?
What do you mean?
So,
Sounds like you want to
no, that's what you make the steps. I think I don't know.
Want me to
Maybe
put comments on?
No, not comments. But can you like make? Can you let like? Can you define a variable?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah, sure.
so that it's like
Yes.
So I personally never define anything as variables. And if you're doing like arrays of objects of arrays, it gets like really ridiculous and it's not good practice. But that's just what I do because I'm a psychopath. But so like another like common good practice to do would be like let current letter equal to letters of I, and then you could say let current leet car equal to leet cars at I, right? And then here we'll say we'll look for the dictionary, we'll look up the current letter, and we'll set it equal to the current lead car. So that's that step. Is that more clear? Okay, cool. So now that we have that, down here, now we're going to loop through the string, the input string. And like I said, we're going to just add to this result dictionary at, okay, so here I'll pull out let current string car equal to string of I. Gosh. And here we'll do current string car. So now, if we console log, like, okay, if we do 3 A's, there should be 3 ats, right? So if we just do AAA, we'll get 3 at symbols. And if we do BBA, we'll get 8 at, whatever. I mean, we don't have the actual dictionary to prove that I'm right, but I'm right, trust me. Is everyone cool with this?
Can you scroll up a little?
Yeah, for sure. I'll also Slack out this repo, this thing for all you guys, this REPL. So again, create a dictionary and create the thing we're returning. First, we have to actually populate the dictionary. So you loop through the letters, you pull out the variables, current letter, current leap character, and in the dictionary, the key will be the letter and the value will be the leap character that's associated with that letter. And then, to get the actual result, we loop through the string, each character, we look up what it is in the dictionary, current string. And remember, you have to use bracket notation here if you're doing this or if you're putting in string of I. If you do dot notation, everything, oh, that's my thing. Like, it's just undefined, undefined, undefined. Because dot notation is literally saying anything that's to the right of the dot is the key I'm looking for. I'm looking for a key in that dictionary called current string car. That's what I'm looking for. But that's not what we're looking for. We want what the actual variable is. So you need brackets. All good? What's up?
You do the bracket.
Like this?
Yeah, sometimes you use quotes, right?
I use what?
You use quotations to assign.
Yeah, you can do that too if you wanted to like assign something. But if I was to do like up here, since this were actually getting a value, if you're to assign something, like this is dynamic, right? The current letter is always changing in the for loop. It's going to be A, B, C, D, E, right? If I do this, if I do that, and then I'll console.log dictionary, now it's just that. Does anyone know why that's happening? Please, guys, please. Somebody knows why this is happening. It's because the string, this is now a literal string. It's no longer referencing this variable, which is no longer changing. This is just a string that says current letter. That's what the quotation marks mean. So if you put quotation, so in a situation, like you can always define whatever you want with quotation marks, do whatever you want. But for something like this, it'll break everything because this current letters is always something different. It's a variable that's becoming different throughout the loop. You're looping through that array of letters, right? So it's always going to be A, then B, then C. So what's actually happening in the loop, what's actually happening in this loop is every time you're looping through that array of letters, you're saying dictionary at current letter, this literal key will be the current leaf character. And then it's looking at the same key and reassigning it, and reassigning it, and reassigning it, and reassigning it. And that's why there's only one thing in here, and it's the last thing that should be Z. Cool?
So in the test, it says that some of the characters are uppercase.
In the string? Like the input string? That's easy, don't worry about it. So what you have to do for that is current string character is going to be equal to string of I dot to lowercase. So if we do, oh shit. So if we do this, it's still going to be 8, 8. If I didn't do that, if I didn't do this, it's going to be 8 undefined. Does everyone understand why? Does everyone understand why this is important? This is only if you're putting in uppercase letters, because the keys are all lowercase. That's what the string is, right? The keys are all lowercase, but an uppercase P and a lowercase p, I guess, should be the same thing in leap characters, right? It should be this ridiculous symbol. So, before we look up what's in the dictionary, which is this current string character, whatever that thing is, whatever that string, whatever that letter is that we're up to in the string, if it's uppercase or lowercase, it doesn't matter, just put it into lowercase. And you can do that because this is equal to a string, dot to lowercase, and invoke it. Good? Should I do another problem from last night, or do you guys want me to continue? I don't care either. What's up? Move on? All right, cool. So,
do you mind sending out this though?
yeah, well, yeah, this whole thing is going to, yeah, I'll send that out to you. Don't worry about it. So, we're going to be talking about object methods. And you guys have been using methods with arrays this whole time. Dot push, dot slice, dot splice. Those are array methods, right? So object methods are like pretty much the same thing. But, so basically, okay, so if you think about arrays can hold anything, right? At each index it could be anything. It could be another array, it could be an object, it could be a string, it could be another, whatever, right? Objects are the same thing. Any value can have any type of thing. But you can actually define what those things, so any key can have whatever kind of value, including functions. And when a key is a function, you're defining that object. You're giving it a new method. Right?
You mean when a value is a function?
Yeah, when a key is whatever, and then that key's value is a function.
Okay.
So that is an actual, when you do that, that's defining a method. I'll show you guys how to do this right now. It's pretty simple, but that's pretty much what object methods are. So let's say, so before with, let's say let calc equals this, right? Which is an object. And before, what you saw yesterday, you can put like keys like is human. This is a calculator. And we'll say false, right? And you'll say like is tool. It could be like true. And you can say name will be whatever. Doesn't matter, right? So this is how you were seeing it before. But instead of doing this, you can actually, like, what is this calculator object useful for? It's not really useful for anything. So if you want to make like an object something that you could put somewhere and then call functions off of that object, that's when you want to define useful methods. So if we want to make like an actual calculator, we can do that. I'll show you what I mean right now. So let's say we have, in this thing, we have add, right? I'll make that a key. Cool? So the value is going to be a function. You could do this. A value is going to be a function. And the function is going to take num1 and num2. So, and then this function will just return num1 plus num2. So now, down here, if you console.log calc, you console.log calc, which is the object, dot add, and then you could just pass in 2 and then 2. Oh, wait.
Your object is called count.
What's up?
Your object is count.
Oh shit, is it really? That's my bad. You get 4. So now that function, but like if you console log like add, that's not anywhere. That doesn't exist anywhere in the global thing. But it does exist on calc. Add is a function. Does anyone have any questions on why this is possible? I mean, it's not really a why. It's just like you can do this. You could just make it a value of a key of function. And then we call those methods. And objects, you can do this. You can have like a million different methods on one object. And just what that means is that a million different keys and all their values are different functions. That's all that means. And like we're doing it here, we can also say calc of, I'll use strings, calc subtract is equal to a function which will be same thing, num1, num2, and it's just going to return num1 minus num2. Oh, shit. Spell everything right? Yeah. So now if I console.log calc of subtract, does this work? No, I think this works. Wait, let me try it. Calc of subtract of 5 and 3. Yeah, okay, that's the works. So what we're saying is we're looking at right here, we're looking at this calculator object. We're accessing the property to subtract. So this part is a function now. And you're invoking that function with 5 and 3. 5, 3, 5 minus 3 is 2. It's that simple. What's up?
If you don't put the quotation marks in the second one, it still works, right?
Let's find out. Somebody tell me why this doesn't work. We're saying calc. What is this?
It's not a string.
It's not anything. Subtract is nowhere. It's not like a variable. It's not anything. We're not defining this. This is an undefined thing. If it's in strings, then we're looking for that. We're looking for that exact key, subtract. When you're using bracket notations and not using strings, JavaScript is going to say, oh, this has to be a variable. Where is it? It's not there, so it's undefined.
Didn't you add a dual quotient? I mean, yeah, added that to the object. Subtract is in the
No, yeah. This is in the object. If you console log the object, if you console,
Yes.
oh shit, where is it? If you console log this, you see it right there. It's subtract, right? You see that. But that's because we're passing this string, right? What happens if I what we were passing it before is just this, right? That's not anything. Subtract is nothing. It doesn't exist anywhere. But if we do this, let subtract equal to subtract, now it works. Do you guys see why this is happening? Before I defined what this is, no quotation marks. If you say let, anything without quotation marks equals to whatever. In this case, it's a string subtract. Now when we console log, we're console logging this variable, and that is the string subtract. So now if I take this out, if I take these quotes out, it's still going to work because JavaScript is saying, okay, we're looking at calculator, calc, and we're saying, okay, we need to find a key that subtract. There's no quotation marks. Is it a variable? It is a variable. It's equal to this. Where is the key of this? It's right here. It's this function. If I didn't define this anywhere, JavaScript is not looking within the function for a string that's called this. It's looking outside of it for a variable that's defined as something. So it just breaks. You guys see that? So
do the syntax for add.
for what?
Add. How do you call the add from the top? You just put them side by
Well, it's the same thing. Like, if you do add here, it's just going to break. But if you do this, it's saying look for the actual string key. Because remember yesterday when you guys were learning about objects, is that all the keys are actually strings. They need to be strings. If this was not in strings, there's no like variable on the screen that is called add. So it would just be undefined, and it's not a string. But if you make it a string, it's going to look for that. Cool? So we'll do one more thing. I won't go into divide, but like you can also do this. Calc dot multiply. Does everyone see why this is working? This is literally the same thing. Using dot notation is the same thing as using that. I prefer dot notation because it makes more sense in my head. Like calc dot multiply. That doesn't exist, but since we're assigning it, calc is now going to have a key which is literally whatever is after the period, which is multiply. So function num1, num2, return that times that, right? And then you could just say dot multiply. The dot, it's coercing whatever's to the right of it into a string. It's looking for the string value of whatever's to the right of it. So this is not in quotation marks. This is just like this. Yeah, I'll console calc right now. Yeah, so right now, after we added all these cool things, they're not that cool ones, but so calc now looks like this. But, I mean, this is just what it's like in the terminal, right? These functions are actually these things. That's interesting why this is like this, honestly, and this is like this. Don't ask me, I don't know why it's like that. But anyways, so that's pretty much what is the deal with object methods. That's how you define them, and that's how you use them. You just call it like that. It's the same thing as arrays, right? Like array.push, array.shift, whatever. It's the same thing. Those are built-in methods in JavaScript, though, that you never have to write again. Like the push, the slice, whatever. Now, okay, yeah, and there's this other thing that I want to tell you guys about before I go into the slides. So, you guys are aware of keywords in JavaScript, right? Let is a keyword. For is a keyword. Const is a, whatever. Function is a keyword. There's another keyword, and it's called this. This is super complicated. It's not like an easy thing that you guys are going to grasp on today. But I do want you guys to be aware of it, and we will talk about it in the slides for a bit. Basically, this is referencing the object. This is basically a copy of the object that it's called in. So let's... What's up?
On the console log for the add, the entry looks a little different than this.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like that. I think it's because I defined add inside the actual calc definition.
Okay.
Like I think if I did subtract here, and I just made it this function, and then I'll comment this out. Yeah, see?
Yes. Okay.
So I guess that's the only reason why that's happening. I don't really know why, but whatever. So let's say, so now that I said that this is a reference, That probably doesn't mean anything to you, but I'll show you right now. I'll show you what that means. So let's say there's another variable in here, and it's total, right? The total's 0. So let's say, instead of add taking in 2 numbers, everyone agrees that add is a function that takes in 2 numbers and returns you the sum, right? Very basic. Everyone agrees that, right? So let's say instead of that, we wanted to add to the total property inside this object. So we would take in 1 number, right? Just be num. I don't know if you have to return it, but... Let me try this. So you do this dot, oh, okay, this dot total plus equals none. So now, let's say we do calc dot add 5, and here we'll console.log. Oh shit. We'll console.log calc.total, and that should say 0, right? Then we're going to add 5, and then we're going to say console.log calc.total again. I'll comment this stuff out for now. Let me explain to you what is actually going on. So first, we're console logging calc.total, right? In the object definition, that's 0. So what you get is 0. Cool. But then we call calc.add, right? And calc.add is a function that takes in a number. And that number we want to put on here, right? So we say this. This is a copy of calc. It's a copy. Well, I don't know if it's, no, it's a reference to this exact object, calc. It's not a copy. It's not a different object. It's the same object. It's a reference to this. So you say this, which is calc, dot total looks for this, plus equals none, which is the same thing as saying total equals this dot total plus none, right? Who's confused? This is weird, but like, this is the very baseline level of what this is. It's referencing the object that's inside it. And this is important because JavaScript is an object-oriented language. Pretty much when your guys are actually developing production level stuff, like everything's going to be an object, so this is going to be very important because you could always reference like what's up and what's down, you know? Well, not what's down, but like what's, whatever it is. Like this is referencing this cat. No, this is inside of this object, so it's going to reference the entire object.
Right, so if it's in an array, it's reference the array. Oh no.
I don't know. You don't really use this with array. I don't even know if that's a thing. Oh shit. No, don't do that.
What's the sideways arrow do?
Oh, you guys have never seen that before?
I have, but I forget what it does.
It's, you guys know about ES6? Like, let is EX6, const is EX6.
The new version of JavaScript?
Yeah, it came out, I think it came out in like 2016. So basically, if you want to say like, so let's say the subtract function, right? If you wanted to write this in ES6 format, it would be open parentheses equals arrow. So we call that a fat arrow. Open parentheses arrow, And then you could either do this, return, well, this will take num1 and num2 still. And then you could return num1 minus num2, right? You could do that. But the cool thing about this, about fat arrows, is that if it's on one line and you do this, it'll be the fat arrow, if it's on one line, implicitly returns whatever's next. So if you do calc dot subtract of 5 and 3, yeah, that's 2. I mean, you guys don't really have to know about that now. It's just another way to write a function. But definitely be aware of it. And I would not use fat arrows for a while because of the keyword this. That's another thing that they're used for. I'm not even going to get into that right now. But just be aware that this is referencing the outer object. Well, the object that it's inside. What's up?
I'm sure if you already went over it, but when you have calc dot after 5, can you just reiterate why you console log that? Because you wanted to have
Oh, well, yeah, sure. So, yeah, sure. Wait. So console logging will print whatever is inside here. And if it's a function, it's going to print whatever the function returns. So if I console log this, if I console log what that is, what is it going to be? What is this returning? Nothing. It's not returning anything. So it's just going to be undefined. When you console log, okay, so in here, I don't have to return anything because I don't need to get a value from the result of this function. What this function is doing is just altering a value of a key inside of the object. It's not like returning anything. It's just saying this, okay, what is this? It's calc. Calc.total. I want to add 5 to this value, right? So that's what it's doing. Plus equals num. Don't have to return anything. Nothing has to worry about anything. Is that cool? Let me go through the slides, and if you guys have any more questions about this or object methods, feel free to ask for sure. Okay, so object methods. So in the slides we will. What? Has Alex been doing that? All right. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know where. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Don't worry. So in this lecture, we'll talk about what a method is, creating, accessing, and running a method, and introduction to this. So everything I literally just went over. Is that interesting? So what is a method? Methods are actions you can perform on a value. So we've been using methods throughout this course, like .indexOf. That's another useful one. So these methods are built into JS, and we don't have to define them ourselves. So like if you have an array of countries, and you say console log countries.indexOf Brazil, it's going to be, is it going to be 3? You guys got it. Nice. So when you want to create a method, let's consider this object. So let Grace Hopper is going to equal an object with a key of first, which will be Grace, a string, key of last, which will be Hopper, another string, and a key of rank, which we'll say is Rear Admiral, another string. And objects can hold any type of value, including functions. And if we add a function to this object, that function is now a method of the object. So now we'll add my method key, and that will be a function that's just going to console log I'm from a method. So if we call that method the same way we call any other kind of method, like .push, .index of, you do gracehopper.myMethod and invoke it because it's a function. It's just going to, the console will read, I'm from a method. Right? Cool? So methods on an object generally should perform an action that's relevant to the idea or concept represented by the object itself. This is pretty important. Like, you don't want, so the thing that I just made, that I just showed you guys, that calculator object, right? I wouldn't create a method, a function that's going to return like a poem, because it doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody be looking at my code, see an object called calculator, and expect it to return a poem? It just wouldn't make any sense. So if this is saying, if this method is saying say quote, and it's a function that says it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to get permission, it's going to do that, but why would this, well, I guess this is a bad example, but like what I'm saying is you don't want to just write a method in a function that has nothing to do with the other properties of that object, right? It's just don't do that. No. So here's just another example, same thing, first, last, rank, say quote, and then we'll have get age, which is the function that takes in a year. So you return year minus 1906. So you just console log gracehopper.getAge of 2018. You'll get 112. The math is right. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it's the same thing over and over again, right? So the key is going to be basically the name of the function, right? So you'll say Grace Hopper is an object dot get age, which is kind of the name of the function, I guess. It's actually just the key, but whatever. And then you just pass it whatever, like a regular function. I see some confused faces. What's going on? Did I lose you guys? No? It's simple. It's just an object, and it's just key result is this function. You define the function like you've always been doing. And then to access it later, you just look at the object, dot what it was, pass in what you want the function to do if it even needs a parameter or whatever. That's it.
I didn't quite follow what you said on, I think, the previous slide.
Oh, yeah.
Method.
No, yeah, I don't really know what this example is. I'm sorry.
So we're like, a function embedded in an object is now then a method of the object.
Yeah.
What's the point of distinguishing between function and method?
Well, a regular function, like if I put this function outside of the object, it's no longer associated to that object.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
We also have methods for arrays.
Yeah,
Is that right?
array methods are built in for you.
What's like the similarity between those array methods and object methods that necessitates them having the same keyword?
Well, honestly, like arrays are objects. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
They're a little different. Like arrays are very special in JavaScript, but they are objects. So they have methods, like basically. They're just special kind. So you can do dot whatever. But arrays are like very like everything's built in for you. You shouldn't really mess with the array prototype. You guys know what prototype is? No? You guys remember the array dot is array with capital A? There's a capital O object, object.keys. Well, you guys did that yesterday, right? Object.keys. There's capital number, capital string. These are all like global objects of that specific type. And if you console log like capital array dot prototype, you'll see all of the built-in methods and a bunch of other nonsense that you don't need to know. So it gets a little tricky. But you're saying, like, what's the point of doing this? Like what this slide is saying is just like, don't write a method to a function. Don't write a method to an object where that function has nothing to do with the object.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like what this slide is saying. But you're saying, like, why would you even bother making a method?
No, I mean, that makes sense to me. I think I was just, I don't know if you remember what you said about creating a method on slide 4. It just like sounded really fast, and I didn't absorb everything that you were saying. Just like the introduction to like why we're talking about this in the first place. I mean, it like makes sense that we would embed functions inside of an object, so that
Like this?
straightforward enough.
Like this?
That was 4. Creating
Oh.
a method.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what I was saying. Can't remember what I was saying.
So basically, like in objects, there's no given methods. We have to create our own. Unlike arrays where methods are provided to you.
Yes. So that's the thing. That's the thing. When you define like so if you define like, let's say you say let array equals empty array and let object equal empty object, you can always do dot push dot slice off that empty array.
Right.
There's nothing you could dot off that object. You have to go to the
Right.
global object, capital O dot keys dot values dot whatever, and that's where that
So
lives.
you're basically saying like this is what we're learning today is for objects. If we're creating our own, we have to kind of build in our own
If you
methods.
Yeah, if you want there to be methods, like objects don't need methods, but if you want your object to do some methods, that's what you're gonna have to do, which is nice. It's like you could customize it yourself, basically. You can do whatever you want with an object.
I need clarity on that. So, for the objects, you're saying that if you want built-in methods, you create your own methods, but are there already set methods?
No.
So you have to create your own methods with objects. Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay. So do you guys remember object.keys?
Yeah.
So those are built-in object methods, but they're on the global object. The global object is just capital object out of nowhere. And then those methods, you pass in the object you defined into them, and then something happens. You can't create your own object dot whatever and expect something to happen if it's not defined, and if you didn't define it yourself already. Because there's just nothing there. It's a blank slate. Absolutely nothing's in there. Whereas in arrays, it's already made for you. I said arrays are objects, but definitely like don't think about that. Like think like arrays are arrays, objects are objects. But basically, if you say like off this, you can't just do like gracehopper.keys. You can't do that.
Give us an example
Of what?
of what you're just discussing, and can you type it out, like an example?
Well, yeah, sure. So basically, like, so you say let array equal this, right? And you say let obj equal this. Like this, you can do dot push 1, right? And then you could console log array. Let me just comment this out so you guys don't get confused. And it's going to be 1, right? Oh, wait, no, wait. No, that's my bad, So if you do over here, array dot push 1, you get an array of 1. Do you know why? So if you guys remember, I don't want to get like too off track, but if you remember, if you do dot push off something, it returns the length of the array. So what I was saying, array is actually being set to 1. So that's not what I wanted. So you set it equal to that, and then you push 1 into it, so you get the array. If you do like dot keys, like this doesn't even work. Like there's no keys. There's no key inside of this object that is keys. You have to say like let's even fill this with something if you want, like name equals, oh, no, that's wrong. Name equals Marco. Shit. Right? There's just like one thing. That's my name, right? This is me. Me. So let me equals name Marco. That's me. So you can't just be like me.keys or anything. You know, like you can't do that. Because there's nothing in this array that has those things. There's just one, I mean, there's nothing in that object that has those things. There's just one key in that object and it's name. There's nothing else in it. So basically what I was saying is to do built-in object methods that JavaScript has for you, you reference the global object, which is this, just capital, and then you could do like .keys of me, and we'll say like let keys equals this, and then we could console log keys, and then we'll get an array of that. It returns an array. If you guys remember from yesterday, object.keys returns an array of all the keys in an object. So those are the built-in methods that I'm talking about. These, where you pass in an actual object.
Yeah, what if you wanted to say your name as well? Like name, and Marco, both elements.
I think there's also values. Yeah. So that returns an array of all the values in an object. But to get both at once, it's weird. You have to like do a loop, and then you have to do a for loop, remember? Like you have the key, yeah, it's like weird, you know? But like basically there's no built-in methods on objects because when you define an object, it's a blank slate. You define it yourself. You put whatever methods you want in there. That's what it is. It might sound like annoying because arrays have so many things you could do with them already, but they're all like, you can't really customize things in arrays. It's just, this is completely, you can do whatever you want. Cool? Cool. So, this is a lot, but like, it's okay. It'll get better. Don't worry about it. You kind of just have to get the flow of how to use objects, and then it'll be okay. So yeah, here's another example. First, last rank greets a function, says hi, name, which is what you're putting into it. I am Rear Admiral Hopper. So, but it's a bit redundant to type out Grace's rank and last name twice in the same object, right? Do you guys agree? Like, why does this have to be a string here, whatever, if it's in the object already, right? And that's where this comes in. So like, hi Karen, I'm whatever.
Sorry, can you flip that?
Huh?
Can you just flip that for a second?
Yeah. Sure. Right? So the greet function takes in a name and it console logs hi. That's one thing that's console logging, separated by a comma. Then it's going to console log the name, separated by a comma. Then it's going to console log this string. Hi Karen, I'm Rear Admiral Hopper, because you call it with this string Karen.
So would it be better if you just said like hi Pussy's name, comma name,
Comma.
Pussy's IM, and then comma rank.
It would be this dot rank, comma this dot last.
And then rank last.
Yeah, this dot. That would be better. I mean, this is like a nonsense function. You're never going to write something like this. Because, like, what is this doing, really? But, like, if you want to access things that, like, imagine, like, okay, if you guys are in the real world, you're going to be working with a lot of data. And data is either in arrays or in objects. And sometimes that data is going to have thousands and thousands of keys, right? So you're not going to write out these functions that are going to look like, you know, you're going to say this dot this, this dot this, this dot this, like all over the place. Okay? Just keep that in mind. So this is like pretty important. This, the keyword this, is pretty important. So methods frequently reference other properties in the same object. So like, this could work this way too. You can do this too. GraceHopper.rank, GraceHopper.last. and it'll give you the same thing. Instead of that string before, we're going to console log hi, then name, then IM. Hi and IM are strings. Name is also a string. It's being passed in game. Then we're going to say Grace Hopper, the Grace Hopper object, dot rank, Grace Hopper, dot last. And it'll give you the same thing. Because it's referencing this. But you could just use the this key, which is what I was talking about before. So JS has a keyword, this, and you could use it to reference the object in a method. So
you don't have to name the object itself.
yeah, you don't have to know the name of the object that you're inside of. This is just going to be referencing whatever object the method is inside of. Cool?
This might be going off the rails a little. Maybe we can come back to it if it's too much for right now. But like, on like Facebook or whatever, if it's pulling up like some photo of you with a friend because your relationship has been like 1 year old, is that something that would be like referencing an object or whatever? Like, is it?
I mean, I don't work at Facebook, but
Yeah.
that's what it sounds like.
That's probably like, yeah.
Like, if you could think about it, we'll talk about this later.
That's
But
probably
like,
too complicated.
you can kind of think of like, if you want to, if you guys want to start thinking about, no, yeah, you could start thinking about like real world examples of other websites and other things where you can kind of like see like, oh, this is actually just an object and these have all these properties on it, with all this data in it, you know? You could think of it like that if you want.
Is there any way we can look at like their code for like features, things that we see on the internet, just to analyze it, learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know about the console, like the DevTools console in Chrome? Oh, well, whatever. Oh, yeah, you could like open up the DevTools console in Chrome and kind of like mess with JavaScript on websites if you want.
Is that the
I don't do.
terminal on Chrome? I thought it was-
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing is DevTools. Like the
Okay.
terminal, the console is just one part of that.
Okay.
Like you could look at the HTML, you could look at the JavaScript. It's really complicated, and I don't know why you would want to do that. Because people's code, like production level code, they use their own frameworks and stuff. So it's not like vanilla JavaScript, which is what we're learning. Like you'll probably look at their stuff and say, none of this makes any sense. You know what I mean? Even I would, because I don't work there and I don't know what this means in there, whatever. I don't even, like, you know. So yeah. Back to this. This. So, like I said, you could just do this.rank, this.last. You don't need to keep track of the name of the actual object. You could just say this. Cool? Same thing. So this is literally just another reference to the Grace Hopper object. Return this. Yeah, I could show you this before. So like, now the get this function inside the Grace Hopper object is returning this, the keyword this, right? And now here we're going to say, we're going to define something called letReturnedObject, and it's going to be equal to Grace Hopper dot get this invoked. So this will be the return value of the get this method. Cool? And then we're going to console log returned object dot first, and then we're going to console log returned object triple equals Grace Hopper. So since this is a reference to Grace Hopper, returned object is being set to this, right? Because you're invoking get this and it's returning this. Reference to Grace Hopper. So then return object dot first should be Grace, right? And this should be equal, right? And that's just what it is. It's the same thing.
Wait, so returned object.
Returned
Returned
object
object is the whole object Grace Hopper.
because get this is returning this, which is a reference to the entire object that it's in. Like in the method, that the method is in. Not that this is in the method.
Yeah, no, I was afraid for a second that we were comparing Grace to Grace Hopper.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm confused
So let's say
Is that just
I'll do it for you guys. I'll do it for you guys.
Oh, that's a key. Okay.
So
So just saying that
Let-
this corresponds to a function.
so let's say there's an object called example, right? And the key will be get this, just like before, and its value is going to be a function, right? And this function, all it's going to do is return this. Oh, So, like in the example, since this function is returning something, you can set it to a variable, and the variable will be equal to whatever that function's returning. So you could say let let other, sorry about the naming, equals example dot get this, and then you console.log other. You feel me? Like if you're setting other.
Because you're setting that this to a function.
Yeah, and this is, yeah, exactly. This is exactly a function. It's a method. It's an object method. Don't get confused. But really, it's just a function. It's just a function, and the function's returning this. And this is a reference to the object that the method lives in. So that's why when you console log other, you get the object. Yeah.
On these examples that they provide, it sort of like gets confusing because this is just embedded inside the actual object, right? But like, let's say, isn't this used like when you're creating? It's more specific when you're creating new objects, so that you know, so that you're referencing actually this new object.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So like,
That's why it's like
if you're like keep creating objects inside those objects, the this keyword will be referencing those objects, not any other kind of object.
that's why in these examples it's just like this is just like internal.
Yeah, but like I don't really want to go too far into like this because this you can. There's just a lot more to do with it. There's a lot more. Basically, the lowest level of understanding is that it's referencing the object that it's inside of. Okay. Like it's going to be inside a method, and whatever object that method is in will be this. As you could see, you could even, yeah. Cool?
Is there a that?
Nah. Nah, there's not.
This.
This is really confusing, and I hope I'm explaining myself well enough for you guys to not get confused. If you are confused, it's okay though. It'll come to you. So this is what we just did. Returned object dot first is Grace. Returned object is triple equals to Grace Hopper, which is an object. Same thing, true, boom. So, oh, they have the calculator example too. Oh, this is kind of what I did. So pretty much, I'll go over step by step what this is doing. So we have a calc object, right? Inside this calc object, one key is num1, which is 20. Another key is num2, which is 30. They're both integers, fine. Now sum is going to be a function, and so is difference. These are the last two keys in this object. So sum, the function, is just going to return this dot num1 plus this dot num2. What is this dot num1 equal to? Cool. What is this dot num2 equal to?
30.
Cool. It's the same thing. So if you console log calc.sum invoked, now this is actually returning something. So this will be 50 because you're adding them, right? Same thing over here. It's the same thing. Oh wait, no, and then you reset 15. So like you know how you can like reassign values. So calc.num2 exists already, and it's 15. If there wasn't a num2, if this was just num, then this would still be 30, and then there would be another key added into this object called num2, and that would be 15. It wouldn't override anything. But since it already exists, 30 is now 15. So now, and it's num1, 20 minus 15 now is 5. Cool?
Is there specific? Maybe I'm forgetting something we learned before. This seems like a scoping weird thing, or is like since it's just a defined variable, it's not scoped to like only within the object, and you can change it from outside.
I don't know what you mean.
Because you're invoking the actual object. I don't think it.
Like, you're not invoking an object, you're invoking an object method. You can't, the only thing you can invoke is a function, which is an object method. I don't know. Okay? So yeah, so you're invoking this, and that just returns this function, the outcome of this function.
Yeah, I was just saying like, I feel like I'm mixing things up. This seems fine to me. It just
Don't worry,
occurs
there's
to
not
me that
there's not really anything with scope to do
there's
in this
nothing
example.
to do with scope.
In this example,
Maybe it's just because I'm looking. That's what it is I'm thinking about like this being a script block, but it's really just the squiggles are just
this?
showing that it's an object.
Yeah, it's an
So
object. It's not like an
actual-
if block. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
a
it's
for
not
loop.
like
It's
that,
an
where
object.
it
This
should
is an
be
actual thing. Calc
private
is an
to
actual.
what's outside.
Yeah, calc is an
This
actual
just
thing.
object.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a disclaimer, like I said, there's so much more to this. And like I said before, JavaScript is an object-oriented language, which means objects and their methods play a key role in most production JS code bases. It's just a fact. If you're going to be getting a job where there's a lot of JavaScript, you're going to be dealing, everything is pretty much going to be an object. Okay? So it's going to be, this is going to be important, object will be important. But like right now, like this, just know that it's a reference to the object it's inside of. That's all you need to know for now. Like I think you go more into depth about this during the actual bootcamp. Okay? I think. I can't remember honestly. I don't know. So yeah, we're only skimming the surface of this and object methods in this course. So there's lots more to learn as you progress. So in this lecture, we talked about what a method is, what an object method is, what this is, how to create and access object methods, and how to run them. And I think that's it. Any questions before you guys take like a 5-minute break? Just kind of running short on time. Okay, cool. So I'll slack out pairs at like 7:55, and then you guys can get to work on the workshop. Cool. What's up, man?
Just want to introduce myself. I'm going to be your fellow for tonight.
Oh, what's up, man? Marco.
Maurice.
Morris?
Yeah, Maurice.
Oh, Maurice. Oh, cool. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. So what's the deal with help tickets? You guys are just like on the Learn Dot, or you guys do it through Slack?
No, it's on the Learn Dot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, what's the cohort called?
Oh, it's dude, I fucking know. It's
Don't worry about it.
I think it's 1905.
Okay.
Yeah, 1905 BCPWK.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Are you the only one?
The only one that I know of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, word. I mean, hopefully there's not too many questions.
Yeah. I think I had the last 3 days.
Oh, yeah?
So I keep seeing the same lecture.
Oh, yeah.
Doing this context.
Yeah,
It's the same question, so it's easier to answer.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I meant to come a little early, but
Oh, dude,
I
no,
wanted to
dude.
get food first.
No, don't worry about it, man.
Hey, I had 2 questions.
What's up, man?
Theo, by the way.
Theo, Marco, nice to meet you.
I was wondering when you're coding, like JavaScript makes it nice for
Oh, wait,
like when you
after-
like open any sort of brackets or whatever, it does the second one automatically or whatever. But
Yeah.
this is just like a little hand gesture thing that bugs me.
Oh,
is
wait,
that I
sorry.
always
I totally created something. Oh, it's still